In the domain of air-to-air battles, it is after decades in which the Russian R-77 gave many air forces a beyond visual range edge. Now a new player, the Chinese PL-15 and its export version PL-15E, is changing the dots on the radar. So how has PL-15 changed the air tactics over the skies of South Asia?
Longer-range missiles like the PL-15E allow an attacker to acquire targets from beyond the defensive envelope of older missiles like the R-77. This shifts the game entirely, requiring new tactics, advanced seekers, and faster data links.
For nearly 3 decades, the Russian R-77 defined the beyond visual range air combat equations in large part of Asia. When it entered service in the early 1990s, it marked a generational leap. An active radar seeker, high off-bore sight capability, and mid-course updates that allowed fighters to fire and maneuver instead of staying locked on target. Over time, upgraded R-77 variants extended reach and improved resistance to electronic countermeasures, but the missile's basic architecture remained rooted in Cold War design philosophy of solid rocket propulsion, limited endgame energy, and dependence on launch conditions. The arrival of China's PL-15 and now its export version, the PL-15E, represents a structural disruption rather than an incremental upgrade. The PL-15 combines a modern AESA seeker, two-way data linking, and a much longer kinematic reach. In simple terms, it allows a pilot to fire earlier, from farther away, and with greater confidence that the missile will still have energy in the terminal phase. For Pakistan Air Force, this matters enormously. The PL-15E armed aircraft can threaten Indian fighters well before legacy missiles can enter their own effective envelopes. This compresses reaction time, forces defensive maneuvers earlier, and shifts the engagement geometry in favor of the first shooter, especially when supported by airborne early warning aircraft and network sensors. In air combat, range is not just about kilometers, it's about initiative. And with PL-15, the Pakistan Air Force has acquired the ability to contest initiative at distances previously uncontested.
So the PL-15E changes the geometry of air combat, pushing engagement ranges outward and rewarding the first shooter. But how does India respond now before indigenous solutions mature? The immediate answer lies in a missile that doesn't chase range, it preserves energy. Enter Meteor.
India's immediate response to PL-15 challenge may come in form of Meteor missile integrated on the Rafale fighter. But this decision is yet to be taken at the highest levels of India's defense structure. Unlike conventional rocket-powered beyond visual range air-to-air missiles or the BVRAAMs, Meteor uses a ramjet propulsion system, allowing it to sustain high speeds deep into the engagement rather than bleeding energy after boost phase. This gives Meteor one of the world's largest no-escape zones, the distance within which a target cannot outrun or outmaneuver the missile. Against long-range threats like PL-15E, that sustained end-game energy is critical. Even if the missile is launched later, Meteor can remain lethal when others begin to decay. Operationally, this restores balance and in some scenarios, superiority for Rafale squadrons. Meteor will force an adversary to respect Indian engagement envelopes again. It would complicate enemy tactics, discourage casual long-range launches, and will raise the cost of aggressive first shots. But Meteor is not a universal solution. Its strength is also its limitation. It equips a limited number of platforms, relies on imported supply chains, and cannot be rapidly scaled across the entire fighter fleet. Against a future battle space where Pakistan fields PL-15E in numbers and China introduces even longer range weapons like PL-17, Meteor functions as a shield, not as a sword. In strategic terms, Meteor buys India time. Time to deter, time to stabilize, and time to build something larger.
The Meteor missile gives the Indian Air Force a powerful immediate deterrent, but it equips only a small part of the fleet and relies on external supply chains. The real challenge is scaling capability, which is where India's indigenous solution comes in. A missile designed not only to match long-range threats, but also to produce, deploy, and sustain in a large numbers.
India's long-term answer lies not in importing parity, but in industrializing it. Astra Mk-III represents that shift. A next-generation indigenous, beyond the visual range, air-to-air missile designed from the outset to counter long-range threats like PL-15 and PL-17. Astra Mk-III is being developed with extended reach, advanced seekers, improved guidance, and full integration into Indian sensors, data links, and command networks. Crucially, it is intended to be platform agnostic, deployable across Su-30, Tejas, future fighters, and unmanned combat systems. This changes the equation from elite capability to mass capability. Instead of handful of fighters holding long-range dominance, Astra Mk-III enables the Indian Air Force to distribute deterrence across its fleet. It ensures stockpile depth, supply security, and freedom from geopolitical disruptions. Against a combined China-Pakistan missile ecosystem, where numbers, networking, and layered salvos will define future air battles, Astra Mk-III is not merely a missile, it is strategic autonomy in kinetic form. If Meteor is the shield that holds the line today, Astra Mk-III is the sword that shapes tomorrow's air combat doctrine.
So the Rafale's Meteor is a timely fix. It's not the whole answer. Astra Mk-III is India's strategic path to parity and scale. We'll watch how integration and production timelines unfold. Those will determine whether the balance swings back or remains contested.